Your attention is the most valuable thing you own, and you are giving it away for free every single morning before you have done a single thing that matters. Not because you are lazy, not because you lack discipline, because you have trained your brain without knowing you were training it to scatter the moment the day begins. Every notification you checked before starting your most important work was a training session. Every morning you opened messages before opening the work that matters was a rep in the gym of the wrong habit. You have been building a brain for years. The question is whether you built the right one. Here is what I know after 40 years of watching people work hard and build nothing. Effort without focused direction is the most expensive kind of effort there is. You can give everything you have to a day and end it with the most important thing still untouched, still waiting, still exactly where it was when the day began. And if that sentence landed somewhere specific inside you, if there is a project, a goal, a piece of work that has been waiting for the attention you keep meaning to give it, then you already know what I am talking about. Here is the question I want you to answer honestly. When was the last time you worked on your most important thing for 2 full, uninterrupted hours? Not last week, not last month. When? For most people, the honest answer is, I cannot remember. And that answer is the entire problem in 3 words. We are going to fix it today, not with a system, not with a productivity framework, with one specific change to one specific part of your day that reprograms the brain from scattered to locked in 90 days. Stay with me, because what comes next is the simplest thing I have ever taught and the thing most people will hear today and not do. And the gap between hearing it and doing it is the gap between the life you have and the life you are capable of. Here's what I know about attention. The mind does not choose where to go on its own. It goes where it has been trained to go. And here is the quiet tragedy that most people never notice. You have been training your mind every single day. You just have not been training it deliberately. Think about the last week of your life. Think about the pattern of it. What did you do first thing in the morning? What did you reach for before you had a single thought about the work that matters most? What consumed the first hour of your best mental energy? For most people, the first hour of the day goes to whatever arrives first. The message that came in overnight, the news, the notifications, the 100 small urgencies that exist in the world of every busy person. And here is what that pattern is doing to your brain. Every morning that you give the first hour to urgency, you are teaching your brain that urgency is the first priority. You are reinforcing a pathway. And I do not mean that as a technical term. I mean it the same way a farmer means it when he talks about a rut in the field. Drive the same path enough times and the rut gets deeper. The wheel goes there automatically. You do not steer into it. You just end up there. The scattered mind is a rut, and the rut gets deeper every day you drive it. Now stop for a moment. Pause. I want you to notice something. I am not describing a character flaw. I am not telling you that you are lazy or undisciplined or that you lack the will to focus. I am describing a training problem, and a training problem has a training solution. Here is what I know. You can build a different rut, not by fighting the old one, not by white-knuckling your way past the notifications every morning through sheer willpower. Willpower is like a match. Bright for a moment, gone quickly, and you need a new one every time. What I'm talking about is something that works like the seasons, patient, reliable, building on itself, producing results that seem to arrive all at once after a long, quiet period of invisible growth. I am talking about reprogramming, and here is how it works. Let me tell you about 2 people I have observed over the years. The first is a woman I will call Margaret, 43 years old, project manager at a mid-sized firm, smart, capable, the kind of person who gets things done and everyone knows it. She came to me frustrated, not with her work ethic was exemplary, but with the feeling that she was always busy and never actually progressing. That every week ended with the most important project still waiting for the attention she had meant to give it. I asked her to walk me through her morning. She said she got to her desk, checked her messages to see if anything urgent had come in overnight, responded to 2 or 3 things that needed quick answers, reviewed her calendar for the day, joined a 9 o'clock meeting, and by the time the meeting ended, it was 10:30, and the day was already half consumed. Her most important project got whatever was left of her energy after the morning had taken what it needed. I said, Margaret, here is what is happening. You are watering every plant in the garden equally, but you have one plant that needs twice the water of everything else, and it is getting the least. Now here is the second person, a man I will call Daniel, same age, similar role, similar intelligence. But Daniel had built a practice, simple, unglamorous, not at all dramatic. that he had maintained for about 3 years without interruption. Every morning, before he opened a single message or responded to a single request, he gave the first hour to his most important work. 1 hour, protected, consistent, every single day. And here is what 3 years of that looks like. Daniel had written 2 internal proposals that changed the direction of his department. He had completed a certification that took most people 18 months in 9. He had built a reputation, not through networking or politics or luck, but through the consistent production of work that was better than anyone expected because it had the full weight of his best attention behind it. Same number of hours in the day as Margaret, different first hour. That is not a small difference. That is a life difference. But here is what I want you to notice about Daniel's practice, because this is the part most people miss when I describe it. It did not feel dramatic. It did not feel like a breakthrough. In the first 2 weeks, it felt like a mild inconvenience, like he was doing something slightly unusual before joining the normal flow of the day. The emails were still waiting. Nothing collapsed because he did not answer them for an hour. Here is what I know. The things that change your life almost never feel significant while you are doing them. The farmer planting seed in April does not feel the harvest. He just plants and waits and plants again tomorrow. Now here is the piece nobody tells you about. And I want you to hear this because it is the piece that determines whether any of this actually works for you. The brain does not naturally distinguish between what is important and what is urgent. Left to its default, it goes to urgency every time, without question, not because you are weak or undisciplined, but because urgency arrives with a signal, a sound, a notification, a request, and the brain is ancient machinery that responds to signals the way it always has, with immediate attention. Important things do not make sounds. Your most meaningful work does not send you notifications. It sits there, quiet and patient and significant, waiting for you to come to it deliberately. And the brain, the untrained brain, the brain driving the old rut, goes to the alarm and away from the quiet every single morning of your life until you teach it something different. Have you noticed this in your own life? Pause. Think about the last time you sat down to do something important and felt the pull, almost physical, toward the messages, the feed, the notifications. You were not weak in that moment. You were not failing. Your brain was doing exactly what it had been trained to do. The training is the problem, and the training is the solution. Here is what I have found is the most powerful moment in reprogramming your focus. And I want you to hear this carefully because it is the part that surprises people. It is not the morning itself. It is the night before. Think about this with me for a moment. Pause. Tonight, before you finish your day, you are going to write down one thing. Not a list, not a collection of priorities. One thing. The single most important task that belongs in tomorrow's first hour. Specific enough that when you sit down tomorrow morning, your brain does not have to search for it. Because here is what happens when you sit down for the protected hour without a named task waiting for you. The brain, which has been trained by years of default to go toward whatever arrives first, encounters empty space and immediately starts looking for something to fill it. And the nearest available thing is always the default. The messages, the notifications, the urgent things. The search is where the default enters. You eliminate the search by naming the task tonight. Write it down. One sentence. What is the specific thing you will work on tomorrow morning before anything else claims your attention? That piece of paper is doing something more important than it looks like it is doing. It is making a decision in advance. It is removing the moment of choice from tomorrow morning and placing it here tonight, when you are calm and clear and not yet under pressure from the day's urgency. Decision made in advance is the whole secret. It is how the farmer knows which field to plant in when he wakes up before dawn. He decided the night before. The morning is for doing, not deciding. I want to tell you about that farmer now, because his story is the one I keep coming back to when I think about this. I was sitting on a porch once with a man named Earl, who had been farming the same land for 30 years. Good man, hardworking. Up before dawn every morning of his life. And I asked him one day, I said, Earl, you work harder than almost anybody I know. Why is it the fellow down the road with half your acreage consistently outproduces you every season? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I think it is because he knows which field to plant in. That stopped me, because Earl had everything the other farmer had. The work ethic, the hours, the land, the equipment, the knowledge of the seasons, the willingness to do the hard work. What he did not have was the clarity, the specific, decided, written down clarity about where to put his effort first. So I asked him, which field should you be planting in? He knew. He had always known. He just had not decided it in advance. Every morning he woke up and made the decision again in the context of everything else demanding his attention. And in that context, the most important field kept losing to the most urgent task. Here is what I know about that. The most important thing in your life should not be competing for your attention every morning against the 100 urgent things that arrive with the day. The competition is rigged. Urgency has an alarm. Importance does not. You win that competition by deciding the night before the alarm sounds, before the urgency arrives, when it is quiet and clear and you can see what actually matters. Earl made one change. He started deciding the night before. He wrote it on a piece of paper and put it on the kitchen table where he would see it before he went to the barn. The next morning, he went to the right field first. Before the farm hands arrived, before the operational demands of the farm began. 1 hour, right field every morning. 1 year later, he was outproducing his neighbor. Not because he worked more hours. He actually worked fewer. But the first hour went to the right field every morning. And the right field, given consistent attention at the right time, produced what it was always capable of producing. Your most important work is the right field. It has been waiting for the first hour. Give it the first hour. Tonight, write down what goes in it. Now I want to address the thing that is sitting in your mind right now, because I have taught this long enough to know exactly what the voice in your head is saying. It is saying, this sounds reasonable, but I have tried building morning routines before, and they never stick. And I want to answer that directly, because you are probably right. You have tried, and it did not stick. And here is why. The ego does not like the protected first hour. Not because the ego is evil, because the ego gets its sense of productivity from responding, from being needed, from the feeling of movement that comes from answering messages and handling requests and being available to the world. When you sit down with your one important task and close everything else, the ego says you are ignoring things. Things are piling up. You could be getting ahead of the day instead of falling behind it. And here is the insidious part. The ego is technically right about the short term. Things are waiting. Messages are accumulating. For 60 minutes, the world is not getting your response. But here is what the ego never calculates: the cost of giving those 60 minutes to the default instead of the important thing. The compounded cost of doing that every morning for a year, for 5 years. For 20 years, I have seen people who spent 30 years being available to everything and building nothing of their own. They were never lazy. They were always busy. But the busyness served the urgent world around them, not the important life inside them. Do not let the ego win the argument about the short term by hiding the cost of the long term. Here is what changes everything. Pause. On day 11, and I want you to remember I said this, on day 11, the voice will arrive with its reasonable argument for doing things in the old order just for today. You will feel it coming. It will sound like wisdom. It will sound like flexibility. It will say, surely checking the messages first, just this once, will not matter. It matters, not because one day breaks the habit, because how you respond to the voice on day 11 determines what your brain learns about what kind of person you are. The brain that does not negotiate with the default on day 11 is the brain that eventually has no negotiation to do, because the default changed. Do the task first, before the argument has time to conclude. So here is the practice in plain language, because I want you to be able to use it starting tonight. Tonight, before you end your day, you write down one task. The most important thing, the thing that if you gave it one focused hour every morning for 90 days would move the needle on what matters most to you. Specific enough to sit down and begin without searching. Tomorrow morning, you do that task first, before messages, before news, before any signal from the urgent world has a chance to establish the day's default. You do it for 60 minutes. Not perfectly, not brilliantly, you just do it. The quality of the work in the early days is less important than the consistency of the practice, and you do not break the chain. Not on day 11, not on day 23 when you are tired and the default feels like relief, not on day 40 when the novelty is completely gone and the practice is just a practice with no particular feeling attached to it. Because the rut, the right rut, the rut that goes to the important thing first is built in those ordinary days when nothing feels significant and you do it anyway. 30 days, and the practice starts to feel different. The brain stops treating the protected hour as an exception and starts treating it as the natural beginning of the day. 60 days, and the default has shifted. 90 days, and you have a different brain than the one you woke up with 3 months ago. Not dramatically different, just a brain that goes to the right place first. automatically, without fighting, without willpower, without negotiating with the voice. That is hyperfocus, not a gift, not a talent some people are born with, a rut, the right rut, built deliberately, one morning at a time. Your most important work has been patient long enough. It has been sitting in the background of your days, quiet, significant, waiting, while the urgent world has taken the attention that belonged to it. Tonight, you are going to change that. One sentence on one piece of paper. The specific task that goes in tomorrow's first hour. That piece of paper is the beginning of the reprogramming. And 90 days from tonight, the person who writes that sentence will look back and understand something that is very hard to understand from here. That the first hour was always available. That the right field was always there. That the only thing missing was the decision made the night before, in the quiet, before the urgency arrived. Make that decision tonight. Thank you.